His hands were trembling, not from cold, not from fear, from the lead, the same lead he'd been smearing across his face every single morning for the past decade, convinced it was making him beautiful. And here's the thing, he wasn't alone. Millions of people throughout history didn't just live dangerously. They paid for it, smiled at it, drank it, wore it, fed it to their babies. What you're about to hear are 22 moments in history so horrifying, so absurd, so completely insane, that you'll never look at a history book the same way again. And trust me, by the time we hit number 14, you'll be genuinely grateful to be alive right now. So let's talk about the past. The real past. Not the sanitized, romanticized version. The one where people wore powdered wigs and drank tea. The actual past. Where your doctor was also your barber. Your wallpaper was trying to kill you. And your dentist sourced his materials from a battlefield. Buckle up. 1. Explosive makeup. In the 18th century, the most fashionable face powder in Europe contained white lead, the same compound now classified by the WHO as one of the 10 most dangerous chemicals on Earth. Women like Maria Coventry, Countess of Coventry, applied it daily, layering it thicker as it corroded their skin, creating a cycle of damage and concealment that ended for her at age 27. The nickname the public gave her? Death by vanity. According to The Conversation, the most toxic recipe was the simplest: white lead mixed with vinegar, the exact formula believed to have been used by Queen Elizabeth I herself. 2. Medical bloodletting. Your doctor had a cure for everything: fever, asthma, cancer, epilepsy, plague, even heartbreak. The cure was always the same: drain your blood. According to Wikipedia, one French sergeant stabbed through the chest in 1824 had over 170 ounces of blood deliberately removed by his physicians, on top of the blood he'd already lost from the wound. He survived. George Washington did not. On December 14, 1799, doctors drained an estimated 5 to 7 pints from him in under 16 hours, and he was dead by nightfall. 3. The window tax. In 1696, the British government introduced a tax on windows. The more windows your house had, the more you paid, so people bricked them up, sealing their homes into dark, airless boxes. The result wasn't just darkness, it was mold. Toxic, lung-destroying mold spreading through walls that never saw sunlight or fresh air. The poor lived in literal blackness to avoid a tax, and the government collected revenue while tuberculosis did the rest. 4. Poisoned wallpaper. Shields green, the most fashionable color in Victorian interior design, was made by mixing copper with arsenic trioxide. It was everywhere: wallpaper, curtains, fake plants, ball gowns. According to the Molly Brown House Museum, a single ball gown dyed green could shed 60 grains of arsenic in one evening, and just 4 to 5 grains was a lethal dose for an adult. When the walls got damp, they released arsenic gas. People called it a mouse-like odor. They thought it was just the house settling. 5. Surgery without anesthesia. Before 1846, the only anesthetic available was speed. The fastest surgeons in history were celebrated like athletes. Robert Liston of Edinburgh was famous for amputating a leg in under 30 seconds. Patients were held down by assistants, given a leather strap to bite, and told to look away. The screaming was considered unavoidable. What wasn't considered unavoidable, but happened anyway, was that Liston once moved so fast he accidentally amputated his assistant's fingers along with the patient's leg. Both the patient and the assistant later died of infection. The bystander died of shock. 1 operation, 3 fatalities. 6. Deadly bread. The bread you bought from your local baker in 18th century London was almost certainly adulterated. Bakers routinely mixed chalk, alum, gypsum, and even ground bone into flour to make it whiter, heavier, and more profitable. Chalk made the loaves look fresh. Alum caused intestinal damage. And because there was no food regulation, no inspection, and no accountability, this went on for generations. You paid for bread. You got a slow-acting poison with a pleasant crust. 7. Waterloo teeth. In 1815, after the Battle of Waterloo left nearly 47,000 soldiers dead on a Belgian field, scavengers arrived with pliers. According to the BBC, the teeth were pulled from corpses, sorted into matching sets, boiled, shaped, and sold to dentists across Britain and America. Patients who could afford dentures in the early 19th century were almost certainly smiling with the teeth of dead soldiers, and most had no idea. The term Waterloo teeth only became known later. At the time, your dentist simply didn't ask questions about the supply chain. 8. The night soil danger. Before modern sewage systems, the contents of chamber pots were emptied directly from upper floor windows onto the streets below. In Edinburgh, the warning cry was Gardez l'eau, a corruption of the French Gare à l'eau, meaning watch out for the water. Except it wasn't water. Pedestrians had seconds to press themselves against a wall or take a direct hit. The streets of London, Paris, and Edinburgh were rivers of human waste, and the smell was so overwhelming that perfume was invented not as a luxury, but as a survival tool. 9. Flour mill explosions. In the 18th and 19th centuries, flour mills were among the most dangerous workplaces on Earth, not because of the machinery, but because of the air itself. Fine flour dust suspended in a confined space is chemically identical in behavior to TNT. A single spark, from a millstone, a lantern, a static charge, could trigger a catastrophic explosion. The 1878 Washburn, a mill disaster in Minneapolis, killed 18 workers instantly and destroyed 6 city blocks. The workers had no warning. One moment they were milling grain. The next, the building simply ceased to exist. 10. Radium energy drinks. In the 1920s, radioactive water was marketed as a health tonic. The product Radithor, a sealed glass vial of radium dissolved in water, was sold as an energy booster and sexual stimulant. Eben Byers, a prominent American socialite and golf champion, drank nearly 1,400 bottles over 3 years. By 1931, his jaw had disintegrated, holes had formed in his skull, and his body weight had dropped to 92 pounds. The Wall Street Journal ran his obituary under the headline, "The radium water worked fine until his jaw fell off." 11. Baby opium syrup. Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup was advertised throughout the 19th century as the perfect solution for teething, fussiness, and colic. The active ingredient was morphine, 65 milligrams per fluid ounce, enough to sedate an adult. Mothers across Britain and America dosed their infants with it nightly. The babies stopped crying. They also stopped moving. The product was sold freely in pharmacies until 1930, when it was finally banned. Not because of the morphine, but because the labeling was considered misleading. 12. Sewage in the drinking water. In Victorian London, the Thames was simultaneously the city's sewer and its primary water source. Raw human waste from 2.5 million people flowed directly into the river, which was then pumped back into homes as drinking water. The result was predictable. The cholera outbreaks of 1832, 1848, and 1854 killed tens of thousands. During the Great Stink of 1858, the smell from the Thames was so catastrophic that Parliament was forced to suspend its sessions. The river that built an empire was, for decades, a slow-motion mass poisoning event. 13. The dancing plague. In July 1518 in Strasbourg, a woman named Frau Trophea walked into the street and began to dance. She didn't stop. Within a week, 34 people had joined her. Within a month, the number had swelled to 400. They danced day and night, unable to stop, collapsing from exhaustion, some dying from heart attacks and strokes. The city authorities, baffled, hired musicians to keep them company, believing that more dancing would cure the affliction. It did not. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of the most documented and least explained mass hysteria events in recorded history. 14. Flammable fashion. The crinoline, the wide hooped skirt that defined women's fashion from the 1850s through the 1860s, was made of highly flammable cotton and silk stretched over a wire frame. The skirt acted like a bellows, fanning any nearby flame into an instant inferno. Between 1850 and 1870, thousands of women burned to death in domestic accidents, leaning too close to a fireplace, brushing past a candle, standing near a kitchen stove. The fashion press continued to promote the style throughout. Oscar Wilde's mother lost 2 of her stepdaughters to crinoline fires in a single evening. 15. The Mad Hatter. The phrase "mad as a hatter" wasn't a metaphor. Hat makers in the 18th and 19th centuries used mercury nitrate to cure felt, a process that released toxic mercury vapor into the air of every workshop. Chronic mercury poisoning caused tremors, slurred speech, memory loss, paranoia, and violent mood swings. Hatters across Europe and America developed the same cluster of symptoms so reliably that the condition became a recognized occupational hazard. Lewis Carroll didn't invent the Mad Hatter. He just wrote down what everyone already knew. 16. Uranium toy sets. In 1950, the A.C. Gilbert Company sold the Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab, a children's toy kit that included 4 types of uranium ore, a Geiger counter, and a cloud chamber. The kit was marketed to boys aged 10 and up as an educational tool for learning about atomic energy. The uranium samples were real. The radiation was real. The instruction manual included a note that the ore was not dangerous to handle, a claim that was, to put it gently, optimistic. The toy was discontinued after 1 year, not because of safety concerns, but because it wasn't selling well enough. 17. Safety coffins. By the 18th century, the fear of being buried alive was so widespread and so medically justified, given how often coma patients were mistakenly declared dead, that an entire industry emerged to address it. Safety coffins were fitted with bells, flags, and breathing tubes connected to the surface. One German design included a cord tied to the corpse's hand, connected to a bell above ground. Graveyards employed coffin watchers, who listened for the bells at night. The phrase, "saved by the bell," may have originated here, though historians debate this. What's not debated is that the fear was entirely rational. 18. Sugar as a status symbol. In medieval Europe, sugar was so expensive that only the wealthiest could afford it, and they consumed it in staggering quantities, on everything, at every meal. The result was catastrophic tooth decay. But here's the twist. Blackened, rotting teeth became a status symbol. They proved you were rich enough to afford sugar. Queen Elizabeth I's teeth were famously black, and foreign visitors noted that poorer women sometimes blackened their teeth deliberately to appear wealthy. The infections that followed didn't stay in the mouth. They spread to the jaw, the skull, and in severe cases, the brain. 19. The ice trade's dirty secret. Before mechanical refrigeration, ice was harvested from frozen lakes and rivers in winter, packed in sawdust, and shipped worldwide. The problem was that those lakes and rivers were also used for dumping sewage, industrial waste, and animal carcasses. The ice that chilled your drinks and preserved your food in the 19th century was cut from the same water that received the runoff from slaughterhouses and tanneries. Typhoid, cholera, and dysentery traveled in the ice. The wealthy paid premium prices for a product that was, in many cases, a frozen delivery system for disease. 20. Barber surgeons. Until the 18th century, the person who cut your hair also pulled your teeth, set your broken bones, performed amputations, and lanced your abscesses, all in the same chair, with the same instruments, without washing his hands between clients. The red and white barber's pole still seen today represents blood and bandages from this era. Infection was not a side effect of the procedure, it was a near certainty. The separation of surgery from barbering only became official in Britain in 1745, when the Company of Surgeons was formally split from the Barbers' Guild. Before that, the man trimming your sideburns was one bad day away from amputating your arm. 21. Corset organ displacement. The fashionable silhouette of the Victorian era required a waist of 18 to 20 inches, achieved by lacing corsets so tightly that the internal organs had no choice but to move. The liver was compressed and deformed. The lower ribs were fractured and reshaped. The stomach, intestines, and uterus were pushed downward and sideways into configurations they were never designed to occupy. Women who wore tight corsets from childhood developed permanently altered skeletal structures. Physicians documented the damage in detail. Fashion magazines continued to recommend tighter lacing. The corset industry continued to grow. 22. Public executions as mass casualty events. Public hangings in 18th and 19th century London drew crowds of tens of thousands, and the crowd itself was often as lethal as the gallows. In 1807, at the execution of 2 murderers outside Newgate Prison, the crush of 40,000 spectators caused a stampede that killed 28 people and injured hundreds more. Pickpockets worked the crowd. Disease spread through the press of bodies. Children were lifted onto shoulders for a better view. The irony was complete. People came to watch death and found it waiting for them in the audience.